I'm going to get started for real. My name is Caitlin. I know some of you. Caitlin Saposi-Belknap. I'm on the executive committee of Move to Amend, and I'm also right now acting as the field organizing coordinator. And I'm also staff at Democracy Unlimited. And Democracy Unlimited is one of the founding organizations of Move to Amend, along with a number of others in our coalition. And we have kind of taken on the responsibility of doing the field organizing support. So Greg here with me is an intern with Democracy Unlimited, and there will be some other folks, hopefully, who you will get to know who are also working out of our office here in Humboldt County. Another orientation thing is, as we go through this webinar, you'll see some links on your screen. For example, that email address right there on the screen before. You can't click those as we're in the webinar, but at the end, we'll send you an email with all the links that we cited in this webinar so that you have easy access to them. And this call is recording. Hopefully, it'll work, and so others will have access to what we're doing here after the fact. So let's get started. The agenda for this call today. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. One thing that you probably didn't hear me say is that if you want to make your screen large, on the top bar right underneath your web browser menu, it'll say actual size and maximize. If you click on maximize, I think that'll get you where you want to be to have the greatest viewing. Okay, I think that's everything. So. The agenda for today is to introduce you to the Move to Amend Coalition, to cover our 2011 agenda and goals and some highlights for our timeline for the year, to talk about affiliating with Move to Amend, to talk about community resolutions and how to get started with local organizing, and then also run through the Move to Amend resources that we currently have, and then we'll talk about next steps. So our outcomes for the call are that we want to have everyone have an introduction to Move to Amend's movement and organizing strategy, to understand Move to Amend's organizing goals for 2011, to understand Move to Amend's 2011 calendar, to understand our affiliation process for local groups, and to understand how to start a local Move to Amend affiliate or partner group. So, anybody have any questions? Remember to just go ahead and use the text chat, and Greg will flag me, and I'll stop and answer your questions. So feel free to type them in as we go. So, to introduce you to Move to Amend, and some of you already are involved quite a lot. I see Laird Monahan on our call here, who was already involved in walking across the country to spread awareness. I see some other folks who are part of our steering committee. So welcome to all of them. And then for those of you who are new to us, just to give you an overview, the organizations that are represented on the Move to Amend steering committee have collectively, if you go to the furthest back ones, we have over a 15-year history of working against corporate power and specifically against corporate personhood. And we are very explicit that we take our inspiration from past social movements, like the American Revolutionaries, the abolitionists, suffragists, civil rights movement, second wave feminism. And we're not asking for our government to make the change for us. We're building a movement with ordinary Americans, which is who we are, and just like you. We also have a commitment to a multiracial and multi-ethnic movement with gender-balanced leadership and representative of every geographical area in the country. And we're not just speaking for the grassroots, we are the grassroots. And if you look at the steering committee organizations on the Move to Amend website later, you will see that a number of our groups are chapter-based with chapters all over the country, or we are actually local organizers in our communities. So, I see that Mary Beth from California is asking if the presentation will be available later, and yes, we are recording it, and hopefully everything will work out, and it will be available for others to see. And if not, then we'll make the PowerPoint presentation part of it at least available. So, continuing on with Move to Amend. Our motion to amend, which I'm sure you all have seen because you all have signed it, is on our website, and it contains multiple parts to it. Number one, first and foremost, and kind of what is bringing people in probably right off the bat, is abolishing corporate personhood, or corporate constitutional rights, and I'll use those two things interchangeably. It is also our position that we need to establish that money is not speech, which the Supreme Court has ruled that money is speech. We want to undo that ruling. We also want to guarantee the right to vote and to participate, and to have our votes and participation count. Currently, we actually do not have a constitutional right to vote. We think that we do, and we often talk about it as if we do, but there isn't an amendment to the Constitution that guarantees the right for everyone who's a citizen to vote. And we also want to protect local communities and our economies and democracies against control and domination by large corporations. So basically, at the end of the day, our end goal is democracy in the United States. And we see an amendment as the strategy to that end goal. But it isn't the be-all, end-all for us. It's just a piece, albeit a big piece of the puzzle. So our organizing strategy, and this is oftentimes something that people want to get right to, is how are we going to have this amendment? When are we going to introduce something into Congress? And for Move to Amend, our strategy really has to do with movement building, and it has to do with keeping our eye on that democracy prize. So for us, the way that we would like to see an amendment happen, and what we're organizing around, is for local action, local resolutions to happen at the community level, and then to move into spread across states. So, not just in one place in a state, but in many places. And then out of those state resolutions and movement and organizing, we see building state initiatives. Not every state has the initiative process, but many do, and even the ones that don't oftentimes at least have non-binding resolution or referendum options. And so we would like to push through the states legislation or resolutions to our federal government. So basically, we would see a groundswell of communities and then states working towards pushing a constitutional amendment into Congress and into Washington, not the other way around. When we generally think of the other amendments that have been passed in this country, and also the way that we normally hear about it in civics class, we kind of hear about it as happening in Congress and then going out to the states. But that's really not what we see as an effective strategy, because we don't control Congress. I'm sure all of you know that almost everyone who's in Congress was really got elected and got there through corporate contributions. And so if we were to introduce an amendment into Congress tomorrow, we'd maybe get a handful of signers. Maybe we could get Kucinich. Edwards has one that is on the table that doesn't deal with corporate personhood, but does address Citizens United. But that's not getting any traction, because we don't really control our government. And so given that reality and given that situation, we see it as necessary to build a movement to force our federal government to respond to us. So that's our strategy, and that's why when we talk about what actions we're wanting to take, and when we talk about people working with Move to Amend, we're talking about people working at the local level. So another piece of this mix is that there are many groups that are working in response to Citizens United, and that came about after the Citizens United ruling. As I said at the beginning, the organizations that are part of Move to Amend, for the most part, have been working on corporate personhood for more than a decade, although there are some newer folks to the table that we're working with as well. So there are lots of folks who were mobilized, or who were galvanized, I should say, by Citizens United, but Move to Amend is unique among those. And we do have working relationships with the others, but we want to make sure that everybody understands what sets Move to Amend apart. So one thing is that we are, to my knowledge, the only group that is explicit about calling for a constitutional amendment that will abolish corporate personhood. not just some aspects of corporate personhood, but corporate personhood as a whole. We are also, to my knowledge at this point, the only organization that is working with a grassroots organizing strategy on this issue. And then the other differentiation is that we're a true coalition. We have a number of organizations that are part of Move to Amend, not just a couple. And the way that our decision-making happens is also shared and in a true coalition fashion. If you want to find out more information about this, you can check out something that we put up on our website to kind of help clarify what it is that we're about. It's called Not All Responses to Citizens United Are the Same, and you can find it with that link right there. Again, you can't click on this link right now in the webinar, but I will send an email with all the links, and you could write this down right now if you like. Check and make sure nobody has any questions to this point. Remember, I see that some people are joining, so if you do have questions, you can chat them in at the bottom of the screen. So, moving on here to, so that was just the overview of Move to Amend. Of course, there's more, but this is just to give you an overview and what sets us apart from some of the other work that is happening in response to the Citizens United ruling. So for 2011, we have set our primary goal as developing strong affiliate organizations across the country who are passing Move to Amend resolutions in their communities. And that's really what we will be working to support. We do have a limited amount of resources. We don't have anyone who is actually explicitly paid organizers as Move to Amend. As I said, there are some of us who are staff for the organizations that are part of the coalition who are devoting some of our time to Move to Amend, but we don't actually have any designated Move to Amend staff, and so to the extent that we're able to support folks, we're going to be prioritizing people who are working to develop their affiliate organizations and pass Move to Amend resolutions in their communities. Some highlights in terms of dates that we identified when we looked at the calendar for the year, and that we want to encourage others to put in their calendar and to begin to organize and mobilize towards, include May 10th, which is the 125th anniversary of Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. That was really the first Supreme Court decision that where corporations were able to get their foot in the constitutional door and to be thought of as persons. Sorry, I'm distracted because of the question. Let me answer that. So there is a question from Boulder. Is there a place on the national website to update the status of our local campaign to pass a local resolution? I'm going to get to resolution stuff in a little bit, Rick, so why don't you hold that question and we'll make sure that we get back to it. And I'm going to try to maybe do a better job. If you do ask a question and I don't respond, Greg is poking me, so we'll just say that that means I'm going to get to it later, and so don't worry, it will be gotten to, so that we can keep the flow of stuff. So, so May 10th, and Move to Amend, I should have said this at the beginning, Move to Amend is working to develop materials for all of these dates so that we can have coordinated action across the country for each one of them. So July 4th, we'll be looking at doing Independence Day actions. August 24th through the 28th, I want to flag this for everyone. We are a major partner in an event in Madison, Wisconsin called the 2011 Democracy Convention. And details are just forming right now for that event. You can see the website. You can go to it now, and you can register now. And we're going to play a major role in that democracy convention, and we're really excited that it's in Madison, given the breaking developments and news happening in Madison. We think that'll make it an even better draw than it was going to be before. And also, we will be holding an in-person affiliate meeting and training on one end or the other of that convention. We haven't set the dates yet, but in late August, there will be a democracy convention in Madison, and there will also be an in-person affiliate meeting and training. So we encourage folks to put that on their calendar and start planning who they would like to send to that event so that we can begin planning our next steps for local organizing out of that August event. So September 16th and 17th, we'll have Constitution Day actions. And then October 7th through 9th is what's called the Deep Democracy Retreat and Training that we hold here in Humboldt County every year, which is an in-depth opportunity for folks to get an in-depth history of corporate power and corporate personhood, and also organizing skills training. So we will offer some of those opportunities at the Democracy Convention as well, but if you want to come just for that, you could also come to Humboldt County in October, which is a beautiful time of year here. So now I'm going to turn to affiliating with Move to Amend, and then we'll go into the resolutions, and then we'll talk about resources. I see there's a question about that, and we can get to that in a little bit. So, affiliating with Move to Amend. There's two links on your screen in that orange box. The first is information about the process for affiliating, and then the second is the application form itself. And again, I will email these links to everyone at the end, and these are also on the Move to Amend website. So our goal for affiliates is that they have a coalition and movement building emphasis, and that's what we'd like to set folks up to do successfully and work with them to support them in doing work that is coalition and movement building in their communities. All of our affiliates, to be a Move to Amend affiliate, need to use the Move to Amend name. We also will be doing sharing back and forth of lists, so as folks in their local communities are collecting signatures and adding them to the petition list on our national website, we will also want to get those names so that we can be in touch with them. And then the flip of that is that we will also provide access for folks to send announcements about your events and ways that people can get involved in your local work to the petition signers who are in your area. We also want our affiliates to have democratic internal processes and an anti-oppression / movement building, organizing, and power structure. And we actually have a resource to talk about why that is important and why that is a strategy of Move to Amend through that link right there. And then the goal is that our affiliates, which again are locally based, will be networked and grow towards developing state chapters. I think that there's a question about the affiliate meeting training occurring. It'll be, the goal of the affiliate meeting and training is that it'll be on one side or the other of the convention in Madison. There may be a little bit of overlap, but what we would like is for folks to be able to come a day or two early to participate in the meeting, or stay a day or two late, but then also still be able to participate in the whole conference too. So let the screen load for a second. Okay, so now we're going to turn to community resolutions. And just so you know, when we talk about resources, I am going to go on the Move to Amend website and show you where those affiliate application materials are on the website, so you can find them later in case you haven't found them yet. So don't worry, I'll show you in real time how to get there. So community resolutions, and just so you know, originally this part of the presentation was going to be done by Kaya Rabane in Madison, and I actually can't tell if she's even on the call right now, but the goal was for her to do this presentation, but she's in Madison, and she is one of the main folks who has been doing the student organizing to hold the Capitol in the last few days. So when I called her yesterday, she couldn't even see the presentation because she was in the Capitol in Madison on lockdown, and I don't think she's gotten to get to this at all today. I don't think she's on this call. So just so you know, she said to say hello, and part of why she was going to do this part of the presentation is because her group, South Central Wisconsin Move to Amend, has a resolution on the ballot in both Madison, in the city, and also Dane County, the county that Madison is in, and the voters there will have an opportunity to vote on that on April 5th. And they actually did their resolution through ballot initiatives, and I will talk about that as an option in a second, but they're the only group that has done their resolution that way, and they gathered over 15,000 signatures and developed a lot of momentum. And in fact, our Move to Amend organizers are now playing a big role in Madison with the labor work that's happening there now. So Kaya says hello, and hopefully you'll have a chance to meet her on our next conference call. So community resolutions are the #1 goal for Move to Amend in 2011, as I said before. And I just want to remind everyone that the Declaration of Independence was actually a resolution. It was non-binding, it wasn't law, but it was a clear statement of the intent and will of the patriots in mostly Massachusetts and the New England colonies, although others were added, and look at where it got us. So we see our community resolutions as having just as much potential today. They are an opportunity to build your affiliate organization through an action that is clear for people to participate in. It's an opportunity to educate and mobilize the public, and it's also an opportunity for you to connect corporate personhood and corporate power to local examples that are happening in your community. Resolutions are non-binding, so there isn't a threat of a lawsuit when they pass, but they do require your elected officials and the public to take a position, especially if you've used them as an organizing resource instead of just going to your city council, which is not what we encourage. We want folks to really do a community-wide process and engage, the media, engage people in the streets, and so that it is on the tip of everyone's tongue. What do I think about corporate personhood and the Move to Amend motion in every community? Let the screen catch up. Okay. So there's lots of options for community resolutions. The thing that people probably think of the most, because we've been talking about it the most, is local government passing resolutions, but we do really want to encourage affiliates to think about asking organizations in your community to pass resolutions. So that could be labor unions or labor councils. You could work to have political parties pass the resolution, and we do have some examples of that. For example, our Democratic Party here in Humboldt County has a resolution in support of Move to Amend. I know that they are working on one in Boulder or in Colorado. There are some that have happened in Washington, and the Green Party actually has it as a platform plank to abolish corporate personhood. But you could have your local parties reaffirm that plank and connect it directly to Citizens United and local issues if you wanted to put it out there right now. Also, any other activist group, peace, social justice groups, community organizations of other kinds, churches, all of these organizations could pass resolutions in support of Move to Amend, standing with Move to Amend in your community. And it's a good way to involve other folks, and it's also a good way to link whatever they're working on to this issue of democracy and how all of our work is harder when we don't have power over the decisions that affect our lives, and when in fact corporations are the ones making most of those decisions. You could also work to have your colleges and universities pass resolutions. Probably the most easy way to do that would be to have the student government pass a resolution. Santa Barbara University has passed a resolution against corporate personhood. We're working on one here in Humboldt County through Humboldt State University. There's some other options, though, too. You could go through the Faculty Senate or the Board of Trustees or even a campus-wide vote, especially if it's a private college. Those kinds of things do happen at private schools sometimes. And then local government, you could have the city, your village, or county boards pass resolutions. And then also locally do ballot initiatives and collect signatures and have a direct vote of the people like they're doing in Madison right now. There are some resolutions that have been introduced in some state by some state legislators, like in Washington, Vermont. I'm sure you all heard of the Vermont resolution. There's one in New Mexico, although that only deals with the First Amendment. And of course, as those come about, we are, helping out those legislators to the extent that we can, and especially somewhere like Vermont, where folks are working directly with us in writing the resolution. But we really want to see those local resolutions happen first, because out of that organizing will come the mass movement of people that could really get behind the state resolutions and make them happen. I don't think that there's a very good chance of some of the resolutions that have just been brought up without any community participation or public participation, like in Washington and Washington and Montana. Those, nobody even knows they're happening, and there aren't people in the streets, there aren't people ready to go to organize behind that. So we really want to build the organizing capacity and then go to our state level. And of course, there are some states that are small enough that they're about the size of a county. But again, we really encourage people to be working at the local level and then to build that capacity to then go up to the state level through our state chapters as we develop those. Some key things that we just want to flag for the content of your resolutions. Number one is that it obviously should abolish corporate constitutional rights or corporate personhood. And it really won't be a Move to Amend resolution unless it does that. And there are some resolutions that are being introduced that don't do that, put forward by some of the other organizations that formed after Citizens United. And that's fine. That's just not what we're working on. We also want to be real clear that money is not speech and have that language in the resolutions. And then we'd also like to see the resolutions encourage other communities to stand up too, and especially if we're talking about the community resolutions, having those forward to the local government, and then if we're talking about local government passing the resolutions, forwarding those to the state and federal representatives to make it so that it's really ringing in their ears that this is an issue that matters to the public. We also really recommend that the resolutions contain some language to talk about joining with the Move to Amend campaign, so that it really is clear that this is a unified movement, especially as there are multiple groups and they're sort of coming at this in different ways, and the water can be kind of muddy and people can be kind of confused about who's doing what and what is what. If it's explicit that this body or this city is joining with the Move to Amend campaign to XYZ planks of the resolution, We think that that'll make it more clear to folks that Move to Amend is a strong, powerful movement. So, in terms of, back to your affiliates, we suggest, if you haven't already, forming a group and starting with an organizing meeting. And I know some of you on this call have already done this, so just bear with me. But it's easy to start with just a group of friends even. You can use a resource like meetup.com to make it quasi-public and put it out there to other people in your community that it's happening. You could also make posters and do media work, and we will publicize your organizing meeting on the Move to Amend website and to petition signers in your area. And there's a process to apply to have us send notice to petition signers, and I'll show you that in a minute. Oh, let's see. We've got a couple questions on the resolution, so let me back up. Sorry. Okay, so one of them is saying, do you want the content of the resolution to specifically mention encouragement of other communities? Can you post an example? Yes, we do want the resolution to include that, and I do have an example, and I will show you it when we go through the website, and I show you those resources. The next question is, abolishing constitutional rights of corporations is greater than merely abolishing corporate personhood. Not necessarily synonymous. Shouldn't we be clear that we want to abolish all rights under the Constitution for corporations? Yeah, and I think, Judy, if you read the text of our resolution, it's clear that that is what we're talking about. But we actually do use corporate personhood and corporate constitutional rights synonymously because it just is easier for people to understand. And rather than parsing corporate personhood as just being about the 14th Amendment, I actually think that you can definitely construe it to include all constitutional rights, and so that's the way that we talk about it, just to make it easier for people to understand and not get confused. But if you want to be really clear, then definitely just always use corporate constitutional rights, and there's nothing wrong with that. And also, yeah, stating that money is not speech is a great issue, but it's a different one. And as you know from our motion, we include both, and we see those two as both needing to be addressed. So your question about wanting to include both in a proposed resolution is absolutely, that would make it totally right by Move to Amend standards, and in fact, we would like to see that. So please do put that language and put the language for both in your resolution. Excuse me. So let's get back to forming a group. The next step after holding your organizing meeting would be to involve the greater public. So some of the ways that you can do that, and this is not the only list, would be to bring a Move to Amend speaker for a public forum, and I'll include info. There's a questionnaire at the very end of the survey to get some feedback from you. And if you are interested in bringing a Move to Amend speaker to your community, you can indicate that, and we will follow up and make that happen. You could also host a Challenging Corporate Power, Asserting the People's Rights study group. This is a study guide put together by the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. They're one of our coalition members in Move to Amend, and it's a 10-session study guide. I know that there are some folks who are on this call who have participated in those in the past, and it's a great way to get people involved in a very low responsibility way and increase their understanding and education of the issue, and also put yourself out there and make yourself available as a resource on this issue. You could also just start gathering signatures for the Move to Amend petition, and we include blank petitions where you could just set up a table at your local farmer's market or a community event, a film showing, whatever makes sense, and begin to collect signatures and get people involved that way. And then, of course, all of those signatures, you will have access to those people, and you can invite them to your next event. So I encourage you to bookmark the Move to Amend Local Action Toolkit link. It's right there, and I will include it in the email at the end. make sure that you look at that page frequently, because all the tools that we have currently and as we develop more are going to be housed through that link. And then what I'm going to walk you through here in a moment is the state pages on our website where you can include information about your affiliate so that people who are looking to get involved in their state can find you. Our website calendar to announce your events, which also if you submit through a form that we have information about your events, we will both add them to our website and send out an email blast to the Move to Amend signers in your area. And then we also will post your events and actions that you have going on to our Facebook and Twitter pages. And then I encourage you to contact us at Democracy Unlimited, who are, again, acting as the sort of staff for the organizing resources for Move to Amend, and we'll do our best to help you. Noted, Lisa, that the Democratic Party of Douglas County and Oregon would be interested in a Move to Amend speaker. That's great. If you could, when you fill out I'm not sure if these chats stay with us or not, so just to make sure, if you could just indicate that at the end on the survey that you're interested in a speaker, then we will definitely follow up with you. Okay, I see that there's a question about contacting the public. They sometimes ask what the wording of the proposed constitutional amendment is. Does Move to Amend suggest local groups using the same language on this? This one is, as you all probably know, we do not have language yet for our amendment, and we're actually very intentional about that. It's not that we've had other things to do, it's that we don't really think that we as a movement will be ready to come up with language until we have really built a strong movement. And we have talked about the potential for more than one amendment being an option. Basically having a series of democracy amendments. On the table is also a constitutional convention instead of an amendment. And all of those things should be taken really seriously, because given the crisis that we're in, it may be time for drastic measures like that. And all of that is something that we really want to see a deliberative conversation happen around. So what our thinking of it is that we will build these affiliates, and then through them build strong state chapters, and those chapters will actually become the foundation for the Move to Amend steering committee. And as chapters come on, they will take a place on the steering committee and participate in setting the course and decision making for the whole campaign. And so through that network is where we see a deliberative process to determine the language for the amendment or amendments. And we don't want to do that before we're really ready and before we have engaged enough people to really be speaking for a broad cross-section of Americans who would support such a thing and know that it is happening. So that's not a very straightforward answer for talking to someone at a table who just comes up, but that is the honest answer of what we have talked about and where we are at. And I would suggest that potentially this call is just to be, an introduction for folks, but that's an ongoing conversation, how best to answer that question. And believe me that I would like to see us have a conversation about that when we have more affiliates who are actually dealing with that question, so that we can come up with the best way to answer it. So I hope that at least somewhat speaks to what you're asking. Sherry, the phone number for Democracy Unlimited will be up at the end as well. So I'm not going to go back because it takes forever for it to load back and forth. And I'll also I could say it right now. It's 707-269-0984. And again, that number I list it again at the end. And I'll include an email for all of you at the end afterwards with the number too. So, let me catch my breath. Okay, so we're back to talking about our tools, and you can see the toolkit on our website, and I'm going to take you to it in a moment through that first link at the top there. But then the second link will take you to a Google Docs folder, which is a folder that's accessible to anybody who has the link, and you can download all the examples of the tools there, and I'll show you what I'm talking about in just a moment. So bear with me here as I get off of this presentation and take you to the Move to Amend website. While you're going, Carrie is asking if we'll all have access to the PowerPoint. Yeah, the goal is that this will actually be recorded and that everybody will be able to see, you'll be able to see the whole PowerPoint presentation and hear my talking. But if that doesn't work, then I was going to send everybody the PowerPoint presentation and put it on the Move to Amend website. And then Susan is asking, what if we have an existing chapter of a national organization? Can we partner with Move to Amend? Yes. I'm talking more about affiliates because those are folks who are starting, organizations that are starting explicitly to work on Move to Amend. But we do have a process for folks to what we're calling partner with Move to Amend if you're an already existing organization, which can include a chapter of a national organization, to come on and officially partner with Move to Amend. And so that will give you access to some of the resources and ability for us to work together. So absolutely. Okay, so here we are on the Move to Amend website. And again, this will be easiest to see if you make sure to maximize your screen up at the top right of the webinar panel. So this is the front page, and I'm not going to show you everything that's on here at all, but I do just want to flag a few things for you. So first of all, again, we're on the front page. If you go to the state-by-state information section right here on the right, you can hopefully see where my cursor is circling around. This is a place where if you are part of an affiliate or a partner, that you will have the ability to have your events and things posted here, and people who are in your state can find them. So just for example, we're going to be in Oregon this week. A speaker is going to be in Oregon. So let's go look at the Oregon page. So we'll do that. And some of you may already know about these parts of the website, but since there is so much information there, I just want to make sure that everybody does know these things exist. So here you can see the Oregon page, and here's our 3 events happening in Oregon right at the top. And then below are newspaper articles that were flagged as having some connection to Oregon, and so everything news-wise will be in an archive, and then the events will be up on top. Another example of that, just to go to Wisconsin this time, they don't have any events coming up, but they do have a standing group, as I mentioned before, South Central Wisconsin Move to Amend. And so if you go to the Wisconsin page, you can see here this paragraph of text. Oops, yours isn't there yet. You will see in a moment there, this paragraph of text that they submitted to us that they wanted included, which gives information about their affiliates website so people can go there directly, and also let people know what's going on right now. And then also you can see it says send email to state coordinators. I think we're going to be changing the language of that, but nevertheless, when you click that link, it will allow you to send an email to the people who we have identified as the contacts in Wisconsin. And obviously not every single one of them, they have said who will be the ones dealing with inquiries. And so people just finding their way onto the Move to Amend website who live in Wisconsin can then find out how to get involved and get in touch directly with the people in Wisconsin. So I would encourage you to let us know after you affiliate. The very next thing that we'll want to do is get updated information on your page, and then also make sure that all of your meetings and things like that are getting into our events section. So Action Toolkit so that everyone, okay, sorry, looking at the questions, I think that we're good. So looking at let's go to the Local Action Toolkit and make sure everyone knows how to find it. So there's lots of ways to get to it, but the easiest way, I believe, is if you go to Organizing Resources, that yellow box on the right there. And I am actually working with our webmaster. We're going to put a little graphic on the right-hand side here to go probably right above the state-by-state information so that it's easily findable straight from every single page. But if you scroll down, you can see Organizing for Local Action Toolkit. You can also see some of the other resources that we have for local organizing resources here as well. And this is a good place to come and check periodically. And the top, most recent 3 are always going to be on the front page of Move to Amend too. So let's go to the Local Action Toolkit. And this is the slowest part of everything, so we'll let it catch up for a moment here. Yeah, I see here, and to go back to that question about the amendment language, Mark is suggesting that rather than saying we don't have the amendment wording yet, which doesn't motivate people, it seems it would be better to say the amendment will include X, Y, and Z. And that's absolutely great. That's actually oftentimes how I answer that question. I just wanted to clue you all into the background of where we're at. But that is absolutely a good way, and the motion on the front page and that everybody is signed by over 100,000 people, that is what it will include. So that is probably the best way to do it, and the printed petitions that you can download and start circulating have that language on them too. So if you were out tabling, you could just point to that. Okay, so here we are. Judy's asking, does the model resolution state both that corporations are not persons with no human rights plus money is not speech? I believe so. That's my memory. I haven't looked at it for a while, but I will show you where to find it so you can look yourself, and if it doesn't, then we can make sure it does. I just don't want to answer you incorrectly, but I believe so. Okay, so hopefully this will keep up with me here. Okay, so here we are. We are on the Organizing for Local Action Toolkit. I'm not going to walk through every single thing here, but I just want to flag some things for you so that you know that they're here, because it has really come to our attention that even though this has been up for a number of months, there are a lot of people who don't know what's in it and are missing resources that are available. So, one thing to flag for you, sorry about that, is this Google Docs online folder right here in the middle of the screen where my pointer is. If you click that link, it'll take you to a separate page with a list of all of the resources, and you can just download them really easily. So as long as you have this link, you have access to this, and anything else that gets added can go in this folder as well. And then there's a description about what each one of these things are that's over in the toolkit. So you don't have to understand just from the name what it is, but you can find everything, and if you're looking for anything, you can find it here. So hold on to that link. So I'm going to go back now to the Move to Amend website. Let it catch up here. Okay, so some things to flag, and again, I'm not going to go over all of this. So, under bringing your group together, I'll wait for a second while the screen catches up with me, is where you can find the information on affiliating with Move to Amend, that second bullet, and the application for affiliation with Move to Amend. Again, we're going to put that up on so that it's visible from every page, but for now, if you want to get started right after this call, this is where you come. Then some of the other resources that we have some information about decision making and meeting. This is also under forming a new group right here. This is also where you register your event with Move to Amend. So I'm going to click this so that you have a chance to see it. And again, it opens up in a new page, so you're not going to lose anything that you had. And there's a form here that you can fill out. Sorry. Form that you can fill out. Oh, you guys haven't even seen my mistake yet. Sorry, it's going so slow. Alright, then now you can see this form, and when you fill this out, you submit it, and as long as you submit it 2 weeks prior to the date of your event, as it says right there, we'd be happy to put it up on our website and then also send out an email to all the petition signers in your area and nearby who might want to know about it. The form for an organization to become a partner, someone's asking, is the same application form. So just click that affiliate application form, and there's 2 sections, one if you want to be a partner and one if you want to be an affiliate. And I encourage you to also click the information link to and download that, because it talks a little bit about what the difference is between the two from our perspective. Okay, hopefully that answers your, yep, yay, Sherry. Okay, so so that's how you register your event, so don't lose track of that, because we definitely want local people to know what you're doing, and if they've signed the petition, that means that they want to know what you're doing too, and get involved with you, hopefully. There are a couple articles here just to flag for you that we have from the Program on Corporations, Law, and Democracy, which is also one of our coalition partners, just about the environment and corporate personhood, and also labor and corporate power. So if you're reaching out to those folks, I encourage you to take a look at these articles. And then we also list some resources, and there probably are others if you already use any of these social networking or listserv services, and you have a favorite, then by all means use your favorite. But you can set up a Google group to have a way to talk to folks, or your own Facebook page, and there are some of the affiliates that we have. Florida, for example, has a Facebook page. We encourage you to do that for sure. And so, moving on to actions and campaigns now. I'll let it catch up for a moment. So the tools that we have here are a lot of information that's helpful for folks to learn more. And the study guide that I mentioned earlier is the last link there, 10-session study guide, and that takes you straight to the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom website, where you can download the sessions, and they even give you information about how to get started. And that's a really great way to basically begin to involve people in your group, in your work, and learn more yourself. Holding a public event, we do have this event checklist here, and then we also have some information in the publicity section down lower that's helpful when you're doing an event. Tabling at local events, that's one of the things I mentioned that you could just start doing with even just a small group of people, or even just one person. Some of you who are on this call, actually, that's what you have been doing. So that's great. Here's where you can download the Move to Amend petition in printed form. You could also just set up a computer if there is internet access and a plug. You could set up a computer and have people sign the petition right into the website. But you could also download this printed petition, and then you can send it to us, enter in the folks, and then send them to us, and then you can have access to those names, and then we will also add them onto the petition list so that the number grows. I see there's a question about, is there a place on the Move to Amend website for a local affiliate's website? So, Mary, right now the option would be for, I know that you're in Kansas City, so we could put in the Missouri state page a link to your website and let people know that one of the affiliates is is your group, and we could also do that in Kansas as well, so that folks, right on that border could attend. And then down the road, our goal is to make it so that affiliate folks can actually change those things directly and add their own pages too. But for right now, the best place to let people know about your website that you already have would be to list it on the state page for the state that you're in, or in your case, those 2 states. Okay. So some of the other things, you can download our Move to Amend brochure and print it up yourself, and then there's also a bookmark here that you can download and save on printing costs. It's just a quick, easy thing you can hand people. It doesn't cost that much. You can just print it in black and white. And I'm going to show you what happens when you click on one of these things, just to orient you, because it takes you to, again, that Google Docs folder. So let's let it do that here. So you can see here's the bookmark. Here's page 1. You can also see page 2 down here. And you can either download it here on the top left, or you can print it directly, and makes it really easy for you to get these things onto your own computer. So all of them, all the PDFs and Word documents that are included in this tool list, when you click the link, that's what happens. And again, it opens it in a new page, so you don't have to worry about losing your place or anything. So on to resolutions and the tools that we have here. Let this catch up for a moment. Mark is mentioning that creating a meetup can serve as a fairly inexpensive affiliate website in the meantime, and it has lots of resources for publicity. Absolutely. And I had included that meetup.com link, and we do encourage folks to do that. And I believe South Central Wisconsin Move to Amend actually is a meetup page. That's what they're using as their website. And so that is a free option that's easy and is kind of all oriented around getting the word out about your group. So it does have lots of resources, and by all means, go ahead and get started. Don't let making a website hold you back. So in terms of a resolution, we do have this resource that the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom put together, tips for passing a resolution. That's really about getting your city council to approve a resolution, and if that's the route you're going to go, I really encourage you to look at this resource. Again, it is also great to do the ballot initiative process if your state or city has that, because that really involves more people. Yeah, Rick, let me make sure to get to your question at the end about a Google group. You can see here our model resolution, and then also I want to flag, and I know some of you already know about this resource, but there is, we do have a Google map that shows the resolutions in progress and that have been passed, and also ordinances. So this goes back to before Move to Amend even started with a number of these ordinances. So I'll just wait for this to load up for a moment here. But we do encourage you to give us the most current information and get your location with a pin as soon as you start working on a resolution. And you can see that it also, for some reason, the eastern part of the state doesn't fit, but if you move it over, there are more there. So the yellow ones are the ones that are in progress right now, and those of you who are working on resolutions, hopefully you're all included in yellow. And if you haven't clicked through this to see the examples of things that have passed, please do so. And then also if you click on any of the pins, what shows up is a short description about the said resolution or ordinance and where you can go to get more information about it. So please help us keep this resource current so that people can see all that's happening. So now I'm going back over to the Toolkit link. And then we do have here these things here are just some examples from both community groups, well, not community, really a national organization. The American Academy of Family Physicians passed a resolution. City of Berkeley has passed a resolution. Madison's materials from their petition drive, and then I had mentioned already Humboldt County's Democratic Central Committee resolution. So I encourage you to look at all of those for language examples, but again, our sample is right here. So there's a question about what are the sources of funding for Move to Amend, and who's specifically opposed to this movement. Well, our funding has all come from individuals. That's the only funding that we've received. So whenever you get an email asking for a contribution, the people who click that are the people who have contributed to Move to Amend, and that's where all our funding has come from. Who's specifically opposed to the movement? I actually don't know. In terms of explicitly, there isn't organized opposition at this point, to my knowledge. And then the last thing here, just on this toolkit, I want to direct you to are the resources in the publicity and press section. Let this catch up. And you can see there's a number of things there. There's corporate person talking points, corporate personhood talking points. There are some materials that we've developed for last year's 4th of July, a Declaration of Independence from Corporate Rules, so there's a poster and a handbill, sample press release, sample event poster, and then also Move to Amend graphics. So if you are going to develop your own materials as an affiliate or partner, you can use the Move to Amend graphics and letterhead and business card template here as well. So that's an overview of what we have so far, and as I mentioned to you before, there are a number of kind of days of action or opportunities for mobilization coming up this year, and materials will be developed for those as well. And we're not quite ready yet, but as we have affiliates come on and really get themselves underway, there will be an opportunity for representatives from affiliates to participate in the working groups of the Move to Amend Steering Committee, who are the ones who are creating the materials. And so that is something that down the road we would like to see our affiliates directly involved with volunteering to help us create those kinds of things. So, just a quick overview again. The things that are in that toolkit are affiliation information and an application for both affiliates and partners, an event checklist, a sample poster, sample press release, study group materials and other handouts and resources, materials for tabling, sample resolutions, corporate personhood talking points, and Move to Amend graphics. So there's a number of things in there, and whenever we add a new thing, it'll show up as the most recent organizing resource in that yellow list, and it'll also be linked through that toolkit. So hold on to that bookmark that link. So I want to take a moment to see if there are any questions now, because we're about to be done, even though we're a little bit early. Oh, and Laird is saying that Edna, Minnesota has passed a city ordinance, and a copy of the ordinance is on their blog, lairdandrobin.org. So, Laird, I saw that you sent me that, although before it only had part of the text. So I will go there and look and add that, because I didn't want to add it to our map until it had all of the information. So thank you for that update. So Deborah is asking, have any unions expressed concern about the money/speech language enabling limits on union political contributions? Have any news corporations expressed concern about their status if corporate personhood is abolished? No and no is the direct answer, but that is partly why we are taking very seriously the task of writing the language, involving the people that we most want to have a say in what it says. So absolutely, we do want to figure out what to do about unions, because unions have in some ways been lumped in with corporations for some rights, but then not others. So there's not really a level playing field there, but under the law there are connections, and we really do see unions as quite different than corporations. And then also news corporations in terms of the First Amendment. There hasn't been any expressed concern about that, but it is something that we would want to make sure that we still have freedom of the press. When the Constitution was written, people who had printing press and corporations was not synonymous like it is now. So that is certainly something that we don't want to get rid of or inadvertently limit our right to freedom of the press. But at the same time, you'll see in our model resolution, there is a lot of language, or there's a whole clause about how media corporations really hinder our democracy by not giving us the full picture. So that's a bigger issue too, that we don't want to, we probably want to really get away from corporations being the ones who control the media. So Rick is asking about a Google discussion group from National Move to Amend. That is something that I will raise with our steering committee. I don't think that there'd be opposition. It's just a matter of moderation. Everybody who participates in the internet, you probably all know that somebody has to moderate open discussion forums, and so I think that would probably be the concern, but it also could be something that we could work around. So thanks for raising that, and I will bring it up and follow up on a subsequent webinar about what that looks like. Mary Bass is asking, is this an international issue? Do other countries give corporations constitutional rights? Yes and no, it varies by country. It certainly is an international issue in the sense that the idea of property having rights is something that was invented here in the United States, but has been taken global with free trade agreements and paradigm of the World Trade Organization, the WTO. So even if it's not codified in other countries' law, international law basically, I mean, it's not constitutional rights, right, because there is no U.S. Constitution playing in that field, but that whole paradigm of property having rights is one that has been taken international. So certainly this is an international issue. The way to address it from our perspective would be to get our own house in order. And most other countries where there are vibrant, successful democracy movements that are thriving are challenging this as well. Mary Beth is also asking, where can I get the best description of how life would change if we succeed with this effort? There was a link, let me just show you. On the, take a second to go there. In the toolkit, there is something that does speak to this, that was put together by the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom campaign some years ago, under the section called Launch a Study Group. It's going to take a second for this to catch up with me. Here you can see what could change if corporate personhood were abolished. I encourage you to start there, Mary Beth. And that's not completely comprehensive, and that was also written before Citizens United was passed, but that definitely begins to tell the story. Oh, and Rick is also suggesting try Post-Corporate World by David Korten, and yes, that is another good resource for sure. And then there's another question about some articles about property having rights. I'd like to know more about this issue. They're not exactly, I mean, a corporation is property, so when I'm saying that, that's a corporation is property, so property having rights is what corporate personhood is really fundamentally about. There is a book that you can find through the Program on Corporations, Law, and Democracy called, let me grab it over here. Ooh. The Rule of Property. It's a small little pamphlet book written by Karen Coulter, C-O-U-L-T-E-R. Again, it's The Rule of Property, printed by Apex Press. And that would also be a good place to look for more information about that. Okay, catching up with questions. Have you contacted the League of Women Voters? No, not yet. The way the league, and you may be part of the league, Deborah, which may be why you are asking, but they have to study something before they will take a position. So it would be a good idea to get started on that. We haven't, but there's absolutely no reason why that isn't something that folks could be doing at the local level, is contacting their local League of Women Voters and asking if they study this question of corporate constitutional rights, because they need to do a study before they can take a position, and I think a study is something that is a pretty heavy-duty process. It takes them more than a couple of years to come down with positions, and locals are not allowed to take positions until the national has done so. Can we just find that document through the Google Documents? Judy, can you tell us which document you're talking about? I'm sorry, we lost track a little bit here. Oh, what could change if corporate personhood were abolished? Looks like Judy's asking what could change if corporate personhood were abolished. Yes, that is, every single tool in this list is in that Google Documents folder, so you can find it there. Noted, Rick. What should we do with the names, emails we collect at events to be sure that they get posted on your site? Thank you for your question, Carla. If you, once you affiliate would be the best time for, we really do encourage folks to start with affiliating, and I know that there are some of you who we weren't ready yet on the affiliation process, and you got going, and that is great, and we were happy that you didn't let us hold you back too much. But now that we do have the affiliation process, it would be great if everybody could double back and make sure to officially do that, especially now that there are folks who are using the Move to Amend name, and we don't even necessarily know all of those people. So we'd like to kind of get a handle on all of that. And then as part of the package with affiliation, we will send you a starter Excel spreadsheet to show you the fields that we need. And what we would ask is for folks to enter their petition, the folks who sign the petitions that you're collecting locally. We'd ask you to have volunteers in your group enter those names and then email us the petition lists. And I actually just finalized everything with our webmaster last week, and so we are now good to go that with just a couple clicks I can then include those people into the pool of getting our national email blast and also being listed or having their name counted on the national petition. So an Excel spreadsheet is the short answer to that question, but we would like you to use our format, which I know, Carla, you already have been using. So for other folks, as soon as you're done affiliating, we would like to send you that sample spreadsheet and then get all the folks that you have collected to make sure that they're in touch with the National Move to Amend and getting our information. There's a question about, this is my first webinar, why am I seeing ads? Are the ads from the so the ads are have nothing to do with Move to Amend. This is a free webinar service that we're using. We're trying it out. We may switch to a non-free service, in which case the ads would go away. But we thought we'd experiment with this free service and see if folks could stand the ads. And if you want to make a comment on that and let us know if they were distracting or if you didn't even notice them, it would be good to get your feedback when you fill out the survey at the end. That would be great. Okay. If there are any other questions, please let me know now. And if you do have more detailed questions, we'd be happy, Greg or myself would be happy to follow up with you by phone or email as well. So if you don't feel like this is the best format for getting your question answered, we can totally do it by email or phone. Oh, Deborah's telling us that she's using Mozilla Firefox's ad blocker and she doesn't get any ads. So maybe that's something that we can suggest that people do from the beginning, because the webinar services that exist out there are kind of pricey, and it is nice to be able to save costs in this way, but it is a shame to see the ads. So we'll give that a try and see if we can make that something that everybody knows. Thanks, Deborah. Okay, so it looks like there aren't any more questions. So again, to point you back to the screen, the next steps, we'd ask you to complete the survey at the end of this webinar so that we can best assist you. It's not long, but just gives us a sense of how this worked for you. Like I said several times, this is our first time doing this, so we want to know if we should keep doing them this way and what to include for the future. And then also, if you could let us know a little bit about what you're thinking for where you want to go next, that would be helpful too, so that we can better serve you in the month ahead. Our next webinar will be the first Tuesday of next month, Tuesday, April 5th, at the same time, so mark your calendars. And we'll have to see, based on the response that we get and kind of some feedback that we're going to do internally, we'll figure out whether it makes sense to hold this kind of introduction webinar regularly or just point people to the recording if that works, and then build on that for future webinars, or whether what we really need is once folks affiliate and begin doing work, there's a conference call opportunity where people can actually talk to each other that develops. Obviously right now for this one you guys couldn't talk, you were doing the chat thing because we didn't want it to get unwieldy, but we don't want to cut off your ability to network with each other. So that is on our mind, and we will figure out how to do that. Please register for the Democracy Convention. You can register now and start telling your friends. It's going to be big, and it's really exciting. That's in Madison. So when this call is over, you can go check out that link. And then, again, there was the question about the Democracy Unlimited number and how to contact us. So there's our email and phone number. And what will happen is when I close up this screen, your web browser will go right to the survey. So you don't need to do anything. It'll just go right there. So, last call for any questions? Oh, Mary Beth was just said, didn't catch what I was saying about, if you do, had a question about the petitions. If you do, go ahead and use the printed petition. You download the petition and then start, say, set it up at your table for your community group or circulating them in your community. We do ask that folks then email us the names and contact info on the petitions so that we can include them on the national list. So once you affiliate or Mary Beth, it looks like there's some follow-up that we have to do anyway, so I will make sure to let you know exactly how to do that. But it's basically like an Excel spreadsheet with the names so that we can easily upload them into our system. And the PowerPoint should be available. I have an email all queued up ready to go to you, and the service tells me that it only takes about 5 minutes for the recording to come through. We didn't ever really get it to work right in our demos for ourselves, so we'll see what happens, but you will have an email from us with either the recording from this or just the PowerPoint presentation by tomorrow morning. How about? And the other thing is that if the recording doesn't work, then I might just use another service where you can talk, and I'll try doing this all over again. So that people can actually have some talking to go along with the presentation. But hopefully the recording works and we won't have to do that. Okay, oh, Pat, thank you for the reminder. There was a suggestion for newbies. Okay, I think that my suggestion would be to get a group of your friends together and to look at having an organizing meeting to try and set up a move to amend affiliate. That might seem kind of daunting if you've never done any kind of organizing, but our democracy is in crisis, and if we don't figure out how to organize ourselves and each other, we are not going to solve the problem. So we really encourage people to get started working collectively. If that just seems like too much, you could also take a look at the materials in the study group, and then see about maybe organizing a study group with your friends, which then the materials are all set out straight for you, and you can just follow along what it says to do. And you only need like 4 to 8 people to get started. In a study group, you could even have less, but I think you'd have better conversation if you had more. So you don't need a bunch. And one of the things you could work to doing is bringing a move to amend speaker to your community, and your organizing group could start that process, and we have materials to help you. We can kind of hold your hand to do it, and that's how a lot of the groups that are going now did get started, is one of our speakers came and spoke to their community, they broadcast it widely, and then the people who came gave them more folks who wanted to get involved, and they left with resources and a plan to run a resolution, because that's really what we'd like to see folks do. So, great. Looks like, Pat, that answered your question. Awesome. All right. Well, another question. All right. It's a good question. So how long does it take to get a speaker to come, and do we need to pay them something? So it kind of depends where you are in terms of how long it takes to get a speaker to come, because it has to work with one of our folks' schedules, and our main person who has been doing the touring has been David Cobb, and he's based here in Humboldt County. So it's somewhere where he has been doing about half time on the road for Move to Amend. In terms of paying something, our goal is to definitely get travel reimbursed, and ideally make a little bit of honorarium on top of that. And we can direct you to info about how to utilize universities or community groups. Partnering with community groups can sometimes help cover those costs. And you can also do a pass the hat to pay for the workshop and or presentation, and that can cover some of it too. So if you are interested in bringing a speaker, please just go ahead and indicate that, and then we can follow up with the details about how to make that happen and the timing of it, because it really varies. Los Angeles, I see you asking about, is probably more quickly doable than New York, but at the same time, we have folks who are traveling, and if it's on their way, then that can make it easier. So the best is to kind of put it in a network with a number of other stops, and to make it more worth, and to pay for the travel that way. And so we can help do that. And if you do want to see David Cobb in action, I encourage you to go to the Democracy Unlimited website and check out the videos there. The good folks in Florida videoed his whole conference, his whole talk when he was there, and so you can see kind of what he does. And I'll take the screen to it now, because there was more than one of you who asked about this. So give it a second to roll. So the Democracy Unlimited website is duhc.org, and you can see it here. So if you go down to the bottom of the front page, you can see videos, and there's a number of videos of David speaking for Move to Amend there. And those are all YouTube videos, so everybody should be able to see them. And this is the Florida talk here, where he's wearing black and white. So if you start with part 1, oops, sorry, I was talking before it got there. that is the Florida section, and then part 1 is right there. So take a look at that and see if that's something that would be interesting. You could also show this to a group if you wanted to just, again, get a little group of your friends or hold a house party. You could show this to whet people's appetite, get them riled up, get them started. And there may be potential for us to do this as a video conference at some point in the future, but really part of why we really like to go to a community is then we can also have a meeting with organizers the next day to help get you started on taking action. So there are, plan Bs that we could do, but really it is best if we can meet folks face to face and be a resource that way. We have not contacted the Brennan Center for Justice, although I know who they are, and the legislation that they're working on to respond to Citizens United is really not as far-reaching as what we're working on, so we're not opposed to that as a step, but it's not quite the same thing as what we're doing, and so we're trying to kind of keep our eye on the prize. But if there were folks who were interested in connecting, we would definitely be open to that. If, Deborah, you know folks at the Brennan Center who want to connect, please send them our way. Okay, really last call for questions. What would be the best way to network with people on Facebook about Move to Amend that are already interested? Well, I try to post to our Facebook page every day, if possible. I'll pull it up right here. So I have an alert system set up so that I know whenever there's an article about corporate personhood, and of course we send our own things as well. And so if you're just looking for an easy way to let people know about it, then certainly, please tell your friends, like the things on our page, share them on your own wall. You can also, well, I'm not logged in here so you can't see, but once you are, you can share our page with others. And in terms of actually networking with the folks, I haven't found that Facebook, there are 15,207 people who like our page, and some of the folks who came onto this call, may have come through there, but Facebook is more kind of like one-to-one communication, one direction, unless you're friends with folks. So I'm open to suggestions for how to better network through Facebook, but so far I think the best way is for you to try and get your friends to like the Move to Amend page, and you can certainly post things on the Move to Amend page too, and then those show up in your wall as well. Okay, so I'm going to end because it looks like people need to go, and it's 5:33, and so there will be more time for us to talk to each other. Thank you so much for being here and bearing with our technology. And give me 1 second to end this. Wish you all a good day, and when I sign off